Hello. So this evening we're going to be taking a look at Buffalo Niagara Airport in Microsoft Flight Simulator. This is the version from Inibuilds. So full disclosure, I did a group flight earlier this evening and we arrived at Buffalo Niagara and I only had the simulator stock scenery for the airport. And it got me wondering whether Inibuilds had scenery for this airport, so I went and had a look and lo and behold, here it is. So you can get it from the Inibuilds website. Obviously, I'll put a link in the notes of the video if you're interested in this, and I'm going to take you around it to have a good look around, and then we'll depart in the Airbus as if we're going to go flying somewhere. I'm not going to do the whole flight, we're just going to depart. So I'll sit and program the airplane up once we've had a look around, and we'll get on our way. So I'm running FSLTL in the background, which is providing some other traffic around, so you'll see airplanes firing up and taxiing out as we look around. I'm not going to look through the terminal building immediately, so we'll go and move around in the afternoon or the evening sun. Where's the sun? It's up there, look. So we'll move around in the evening sun and have a look around the airport before we get started. Okay, so I'm going to speed the drone camera up and we'll come around and see what they've modelled and what they haven't modelled. So the lights look really nice on the end of the runway here, and the patterns of the mowing in the grass is really good around the runways, and the textures on the runways of the tyre marks look really great. Okay, so we'll carry on round. We'll follow the fence around the perimeter of the airfield and see what ancillary buildings they have modelled along the way. It always fascinates me the amount of effort that goes into this, and nobody ever tends to even look at it. You know, all these small buildings and the fences and the gates, and like this logistics buildings here with the depot for FedEx. And obviously then the parking for FedEx, there's a FedEx aeroplane, look. So that's FSLTL's put that plane there because I've took off all the static aeroplanes. It's very good, isn't it? It's very clever. Okay, so we've got lots and lots of bits of hardware parked up around the outside of the airfield, and lots of logistics buildings. So this is a colossal airfield, isn't it? It's massive. There's some sort of business centre there as well. And then moving further down, we've got the end of the next runway. So this is runway 14. Again, more lights, more baffles. It's very cool, isn't it? And again, more mowing lines. So it always fascinates me how they've integrated into the scenery as well. So obviously the main roads on the airfield go out to meet the scanned scenery. So I'm guessing this is a water tower here. It's quite a distinctive one, isn't it? Very cool. And then we'll carry on down. And yeah, it's this sort of detail that really fascinates me, look. So this is the Prior Aviation Services building. It's done in quite some detail with their parking lot. And okay, so let's fly back up in the air. Yeah, you can hear some of the airplanes winding up over on the passenger terminals from FSLTL. So it's starting to wake things up. So there's a tank farm here, done really nicely. And the amount of detail that goes into these things, I think it's worth having a look around some of this stuff sometimes, just to give some credit to the developers. So you've got the tunnel underneath the runways there. Another service tunnel here with a roundabout to travel underneath the airport. And then the end of the runways over here. So let's just spin the camera around. Signage everywhere, and it's really clear and nicely done as well. And yeah, full credit to the lines as well. They're done really nicely. It's a bit of an afterthought sometimes, but yeah, it makes a huge difference if you're navigating around an airport with a big jet and you're trying to follow instruction if you're doing a group flight or if you're on VATSIM or something like that. It does make a big difference. Okay, so we've got an aeroplane about to leave. So before we get to the terminal, should we go and watch him depart? If we get the camera in the right spot, As long as he's not holding for too long before he leaves, we can watch him go. Plane spotter's anonymous. Just going to straighten the camera up. Sit and watch him leave. Obviously it's an AI plane and they don't always fly that wonderfully, but it's still nice to watch it happen, isn't it? Yeah, they don't have the weight of physics of human piloted aircraft. Okay, so let's go and zoom myself back out. And we're coming back round towards the car parks. And the terminal building finally. So it's not interesting, isn't it? So the way in obviously has these security gates, but the fences or railings, I guess, aren't there on the way into them that would stop you from breaking the rules. It's nice to see the signage is good. It's all these little things, isn't it, that make a difference. So we've got the ramp up to the terminal. So I'm guessing this is short stay, is it? In the multi-storey, and then long stay on the bigger car parks. So the terminal building I find interesting because there's no people in it, but that means it will save frame rate, and I'm guessing it's so they could really focus on this quite unique architectural design, which they've done really nicely. So if we come back down the other end, you can see it has symmetry, the building, so it's the same both ends. The one thing that really lets this down a little bit, and I'm not going to get too much about it, is there should be a way through here to security, and then, you know, runoffs either side to the terminals. So there's a picture of that structure. So if we go and whiz out through the roof, you can see that structure is there, and then it runs out along this terminal, or these terminals. So if we go along the gates here, we can have a look at them. So there's a Delta plane on the edge here. It's worth pointing out, look how much detail they've done the jet bridges in. They're very good. And all the furniture around on the ground is really nicely done as well. Okay, so we're going to fly in through the window. So you can see, again, no people, but I don't think it really harms it. Because, as people often say, when you're outside, you don't see and hear anyway. So it's a bit silly to have people, static people all over the place. But the actual architectural recreation is very, very good. So if we fly out through the window here, so we come round to the other side of the central area, and we can come back down again. And we got the same again. Slightly different this side. There's travelators. There's the United desk we just went by. So if we speed up and fly down here, there's the southwest gates. It's very, very impressive. Some Delta gates there, look. It's very cool. Okay, so to bring an end to flying the drone camera around the airport, I thought it might be fun to go and jump in the fly-by-wire Airbus, go and configure it for a flight, and we'll take it on its way. So let's just bring the drone camera down, and we'll see what we can do. Actually, should put it the other side because it's quite pretty here, isn't it, in the afternoon, and get a view down across the gates. There we go. Okay, so let's go and get the Airbus ready. So inside the airplane is obviously a lot quieter. So we're going to work through a checklist for the A320. Let's go and have a look at our flight plan before we get going. So we're going from KBUF, which is obviously Buffalo Niagara Airport, and we're going to go and pencil the route in to go to San Francisco. As I said, we're not going to fly the whole thing. We're just going to go and get the airplane ready, so you get to see taxiing around the airport and then leaving. So overhead, Control 8 takes us overhead. Go and put the batteries on. External power on if it's available. It is. We can go and put the APU master on, give it a second or two, and then start the APU. We can align the ADIRS system. We can arm the external lights. We can go and put the no smoking on auto. And I'm just checking around to see I haven't missed anything. So in the cockpit, do we need lights on down here? It all looks fairly bright, doesn't it? So obviously ADIRS needs setting up properly yet, but we'll get there. Oh, there we go, it's just booting up now. I've got it on fast alignment, so we don't have to waste much time doing that. So let's go down. Before we go to the MCDU, we're going to go into the tablet. So we'll go and fire the tablet up. Just click on it. We're going to import the flight plan from SimBrief. So you can see there's the basic routing. So we're direct out of the off runway 23. So let's go and have a look then at Navigraph. So this is us on the corner of the terminal here. Runway 23 is this one, so we'll be taking the Alpha taxiway. So when we push back, we want to push back to the right. Okay. So first things first, let's go and have a quick look through. So there's the operational flight plan. Here's the services page. I'm going to have to try and remember how this airplane works now. So we want the... That's interesting, we've got ground power on. It was available, but there's no ground power unit. But if we look outside... Do we actually have one? Or is it a... This is it here, isn't it? Interesting. So if we say ground power unit, what happens? We get a different one. Okay, or maybe that's an APU. To do compressed air, I'm not sure. So does he put a cable into the aeroplane? Yes, he does. Cool. So we've got our ground power unit connected, which is always good. We'll go to fuel, and we can pull the fuel from SimBrief and load it onto the airplane. So that happened instantly. We can go to payload, and we can request payload from SimBrief as well. And we can load the passengers, and the passengers are obviously straight onto the airplane. We don't think we need to do any calculation in here because the MCDU on the Airbus, as far as I remember, does most of it for us. So we'll clear out the... Oh no, we go to FMGC and then clear the message there, go to init, do an init request, which will fetch the flight plan from SimBrief for us. I'm starting to remember how this works now.
Ladies and gentlemen from the flight deck, on behalf of myself, your captain, the first officer, and cabin crew, I'd like to...
I love listening to this on the fly-by-wire.
We're just
it's so
wrapping
good.
up some paperwork up front here and waiting to receive final numbers from the ground crew, then we'll be on our way. Flight attendants will be coming through the cabin shortly with a very important safety briefing. We do ask
so let's go and get the wind while he's talking. So we'll do a wind request. And there we go. And then we can come back.
If there's anything we do to make your flight any more enjoyable, please don't hesitate to ask. Welcome aboard.
We can go sideways, and we can get the pre-calculated zero fuel weights and center of gravity. Then we can do the fuel planning and confirm it. So that will all fill up with numbers in a moment, or it should do. There we go. And then we can go to the performance pages, and we can, I think it will, oh, we need to put the flap level in first, don't we? So we'll just put flaps 1. We're going to shortcut some of this rather than going into every little bit of detail. Will it give us a flex temp? No, it's probably about 58, usually is, but we're not going to go and guess. But flaps 1 should give us enough to pre-calculate, the V speeds. So there we go. Okay, then we can go into the flight plan, and there was no SID to program, but we can at least go and put in the runway. So departure was runway 23, and insert that in, and it's put a discontinuity in. We'll just clear that out because we are going direct to YXU, we know that. So then KSFO, we don't really need to worry about doing the arrival, we're only going to film the takeoff anyway. So that's everything done in terms of the immediate flight plan. Okay, so Control 2 takes us up to the mode control panel, or FGCP I think it's called on the Airbus aircraft. So let's actually look at it from one side because it'll make a bit more sense. So we're going to push that so it's managed speed, managed altitude. We'll do an open climb straight to cruise, which was it 36? Yeah, 360 or 36,000 feet. We can just do an open climb to get there, but we'll worry about that when we got the autopilot on in a minute. Okay, so that's that done. We calibrate the altimeters, so I pressed B to shortcut doing that. So back overhead, we'll go and put the seatbelt signs on. I'm ripping through this really quickly. I've got other videos where I do this and explain everything. External power goes to off because the APU is now up and running. So that means we go back over to the tablet because I turned on the external power, didn't I? So we want to go back to services, get rid of the ground power unit. So hopefully he'll drive away. There it goes. It's not lit up anymore. So we can go to Pushback here, and we can go and get ready for the Pushback. So we'll put our beacon light on, even though we're not pushing back just yet. We'll put nav.
Arm doors and cross-check.
There we go. I love the sounds on this. So if we're going to use the Pushback system, we have to enable it, and then we can call the tug. Tug is attached apparently. Does that happen that quickly? No, it isn't. He's doing it now. Oh, and he's driving through the ground power unit. That's nice of him, isn't it? So we'll wait for him to attach, and then we'll go backwards. So if we sit up, we can see him pulling into place. They're doing the cabin briefing in the background. So what else do we need to do? We can look on the screens here. So we got the nose wheel steering is disconnected because it's because of the tractor being attached. TCAS is still on standby. We can turn that on now. Okay, we can go and put predictive wind shear on as well ahead of time. It won't hurt anything. So let's go and ask for pushback then, shall we? So come off the parking brake, push backwards, and we wanted to go right, didn't we? So while we're being pushed back and to the right, we'll go and get the engine started up. So we'll put the APU bleed on. We'll go and turn on the fuel pumps. We can put the crew air supply on while we're at this. So then we can turn ignition on. Oh, I just realised the switches were already on, which is not good. There we go. That's what happens when you don't do a pre-checklist to make sure everything is in the good, in the correct place. So N2 is coming up on engine number 2. I'm going to put the flaps to take off while we're doing this. Let's have a look at this from outside while we're doing this. Okay, so when it comes to about 60% down here, we can start the other engine. The airport looks amazing, doesn't it? I think, like I said, because they haven't filled it with figures, it's very kind on frame rate. Even with the FSLTL traffic in place, it's still very kind on frame rate. Okay, so engine is coming up to speed. We're going to stop the pushback in a moment. So let's say, stop us please. Waiting for tug pin, turn this off and put the parking brake on. We will start to creep.
Flight attendants, please prepare for takeoff.
So let's have a look outside and make sure the truck has pulled away. Oh, he's just magically vanished. That's always good. So we can put the taxi light on now, and we can get rid of the APU bleed and the APU master. And I think we're pretty much good to go for taxiing out to the runway. So just to double check, we've got taxi light on the nose. We don't need strobes or landing lights until we get to the runway. We're going to go and put some lights on though, because the sun is going down and we're losing light. Okay. I'm going to turn head tracking on. And we can watch the aeroplane as we come out. So there does appear to be traffic using the perpendicular runway, which is interesting because Simbrief has given us 2-3, which is down there. So we are going to have to hold and just make sure that nothing comes through. It does look good, doesn't it? It's a great airport. Okay, let's just make sure. Can we see any nav lights up there? Obviously we don't have ATC to help us. Whoa, I can see somebody on approach. Right, I'm going to go racing across. Hopefully get across before they get here. You can see their landing lights in the distance. So we're just going to scoot across the runway. We're going to have to be wary of them as well for our takeoff run as well. Interesting. Okay, so we're going to go and wander down to the holding point for runway 23. And while we're on our way, we can look back over our shoulder. Can we zoom in much more at the other aeroplanes? Let's get on the centre of the taxiway, hey. So we'll see other aeroplanes come barrelling past behind us that are on approach. Hopefully. Those ones that we could see their landing lights. Here comes one of them. There's another one further out. Okay, we're nearly down to the runway. There's hardly any wind today, which is helpful. Here he comes. Just slowing down a little bit so we can watch him land. Always the plane spotter. goes his reversers. So seeing as FSLTL is using that runway, it means we shouldn't have any problem lining up. Don't think there's anything else out there. We'll just straighten up on the centre line, and then we'll get our final bits and pieces done. Okay, so screens are a bit dim, aren't they? I'm just going to turn the head tracking off to do this so I don't wander around all over the place like a nodding dog. These could do being a bit brighter as well. So could the MCDU. Okay. We've still got ignition on, we don't need ignition anymore. We need to arm the ground spoilers. Everything else is ready on the controls, so flaps are 1. Here we go. Whoa, we have a problem. Okay, a bit better this time. So the whole point of this obviously is to have a look at the airport as we depart. So accelerating, looking for the markers on the indicated airspeed ribbon. We'll try to get off the runway fairly smartly so then I can go to the external view. So beginning rotation. Gear up. Then autopilot on. And look out backwards. I didn't put the landing lights on, did I? It's a bit late, but it's funny, isn't it? No matter how many times, if you don't follow procedures properly and have them in front of you, you miss things. I just wanted to get this view. There's another airplane coming in behind us, look. He's left his landing very late. And we're making our turn out towards the waypoint. I think he's just gone into the dirt, you know. It just wasn't simulated very well. So there we go. Buffalo Niagara Airport from Inibuilds in the Microsoft Flight Simulator. Hopefully you enjoyed that. I think it's modelled really nicely. And yes, it doesn't have people everywhere, and you know, you can't go wandering around seeing what people are drinking from the cafe, but that always strikes me as a bit silly. But this, for what it is, the taxiways, the runways, you know, the furniture around the airport is done really well. Right. Off into the blue yonder once again. Hopefully you enjoyed that, and I'll see you again soon.